On his 28th birthday, my son told me the best gift was my permanent disappearance. I sold my $850,000 house, severed every tie, and delivered him the shocking legal documents as his final life-changing present. Before continuing, write where you are from or what time it is. My hand slipped on the back door handle, nearly dropping the chocolate cake. Troy, my son, had just wished I would disappear from his life forever. 28 years of a father's effort reduced to a punchline for his friends. Laughter drifted through the glass from the patio. Troy's voice easy and dismissive, mixing with his crew, Victor and Seth. The May evening air smelled like charcoal and expensive beer. I froze. The cake balanced precariously, the wrapped vintage watch, his grandfather's heirloom, suddenly a dead weight. Man, your dad really went all out for this party. Victor's voice carried clearly. I heard Troy take a long swig of beer. Yeah, well, he's trying to buy my affection as usual. Thinks money solves everything. A cold shock ran through my system, the heat leaving my face. I watched through the glass as Troy gestured with his bottle. Honestly, guys, the best gift for me would be if the old man finally disappeared from my life forever. I stumbled back, catching the cake just before my knees buckled. I retreated to the kitchen, abandoning the cake on the counter. I could still hear their laughter filtering through the walls. Troy was 28 years old, no job, no savings, no practical life skills. He wanted me gone. I decided I would grant the wish, but on my terms. I walked back outside. The smoke from the barbecue grill made my eyes sting. Troy stood exactly where I'd left him, beer bottle raised in animated conversation. "Troy," I said, my voice cutting through their noise. "Can we talk privately?" He turned with the practiced indifference of a child who knows the threat is hollow. "Dad, whatever you heard, it's true. You're interfering with my life, and everyone here knows it." The honesty hit me harder than the mockery. "How can you say that after everything I've done for you?" "Nobody asked you to," he shrugged. "That was your choice to support me. You act like I owe you something for decisions you made." Victor stepped closer, emboldened. "Parents choose to have kids, Mr. Davis." That casual cruelty sliced through the last of my patience. I glanced around my backyard, paid for with 30 years of work. "So when you told your friends you wished I'd disappear forever, you meant that?" Troy's facade flickered, a first crack in his confidence. "Yeah, I meant it. You hover, you lecture. Maybe if you found your own life instead of trying to control mine, we'd both be happier." The crowd had stopped talking, watching the family drama. I felt their eyes, the judgmental audience of my humiliation. Your own house, your own food, your own car. All provided by someone you wish would disappear. "I'll miss the free rent for about 5 minutes, he sneered. Chloe, Troy's girlfriend, giggled from the patio table, calling his callousness terrible, like it was a compliment. The cold calculation inside me crystallized. I walked directly to the sound system and picked up the wireless microphone. The music cut out as I found the volume control. The silence fell like a dropped curtain. "The party is over," I announced. "I'm asking everyone to leave my property now." Troy's face went white, then scarlet. "Nobody's going anywhere. This is my party." Victor stepped up. "Robert, don't ruin the kid's celebration. It's his birthday." "This is my property," I stated into the microphone, voice steady and factual. "I have the right to decide who stays and who leaves." Troy demanded I put the mic down, calling me a crazy person. "I own this house," I replied. "I pay the mortgage, the utilities, the insurance." "This is not your property, Troy. It's mine." "You can't just kick people out because you're having some kind of breakdown," he played to the crowd. "Actually, I can," I said. "If they refuse, it becomes trespassing." I set the microphone down. "You have 5 minutes to leave voluntarily." Panic flickered in Troy's eyes. "Dad, you can't do this. These people are my friends." I paused at the door, looking back at the gathering. "You wanted me gone from your life?" I did not raise my voice. "This is how that works. When I'm gone, my house goes with me." The door clicked shut, muffling the eruption of voices. I walked to the wall phone and dialed 911. Red and blue light swept across the backyard like a cold official spotlight. The casual party atmosphere evaporated. Officer Hayes and Officer Chen walked through the side gate, their uniforms radiating undeniable authority. Who called the police? Officer Hayes' voice was neutral, professional. I did, I said, stepping forward. This is my property, and I asked these people to leave. They refused. I handed him my driver's license and the property tax statement. Officer Chen stepped onto the patio. Everyone present must leave this private property immediately. Continued presence constitutes trespassing. Guests began to scatter, but Troy's core group, Victor, Seth, and Chloe, remained defiant. This isn't fair, Chloe complained. We had permission. Ma'am, adult children living in their parents' homes do not have the right to authorize guests against the property owner's wishes, Officer Chen replied. Troy stepped forward, trying to rally his dignity. Officers, this is ridiculous. It's my birthday party and my father is just being vindictive. Officer Hayes met his gaze. Sir, family disputes don't change property law. If your father owns this property and wants guests to leave, they need to comply. I watched Troy look at his friends, then back at me. He was searching for the usual loophole. It wasn't there. Officer Chen checked her watch. Anyone still present in 5 minutes will be considered in violation of trespassing laws. This was the clear deadline I needed. The announcement broke the last of the defiant crowd. The party shrank to Troy and his 2 loyal enablers. I live here, Troy announced to the officers, planting his feet. This is my home too. Officer Hayes moved closer, his hand hovering near his handcuffs. Young man, you are breaking the law. This is your final opportunity to leave voluntarily. Troy stood his ground. I'm not going anywhere. You can't arrest someone for being at their own house. Actually, we can, Officer Chen stated. You don't own this property, and you've been ordered to leave by the legal owner. Dad, tell them this is crazy. I live here. You live here by my permission, I replied calmly. Permission, Troy stammered. I'm withdrawing it. Officer Hayes' handcuffs clicked open. The sound, sharp and clinical, was the true end of the party. Troy turned around slowly, stiff with resentment. The click of the handcuffs closing on his wrists echoed across the silent patio. Troy Davis, you're under arrest for criminal trespassing and failure to comply with a lawful order. Chloe gasped. Arthur, you can't let them arrest your own son. I'm not letting them do anything, I replied. I called them specifically because Troy refused to respect my property rights. As they walked him toward the gate, Troy twisted back. His face was a mask of genuine hatred. Dad, I will never forgive you for this. You think you've won something, but you just made the biggest mistake of your life. His hatred confirmed that my decision was right. I simply said, we'll see. Victor and Seth approached Officer Chen. How long will he be held? When can we bail him out? Criminal trespassing can carry a sentence of up to 2 weeks in county jail plus fines. 2 weeks. The time window was more than enough for my plan. I watched the patrol car drive away. The real work began now. I sat at the kitchen table the next morning, coffee brewed in absolute silence. A quick call confirmed the sentence. 15 days. Release date. May 29th at 9 a.m. I pulled 5 years of records, rent equivalent in the neighborhood, made $2,800 monthly. Utilities averaged, might have $350 in Iowa. Food costs, roughly $400 monthly. Yeah, totaling approximately $4,200 per month, or to $50,000 annually. I had supported his disrespect for the $50,000 annually, but still, I researched real estate. Similar houses were selling for between $820,000 and $880,000. Mine could command the high end. The decision crystallized. Troy wanted me gone. I would vanish. The house would be sold while he sat in the county detention center. The proceeds would fund my comfortable retirement. I reached for the phone. I needed an agent who specialized in quick, efficient sales. The name was Sarah Wilson. Sarah Wilson's office overlooked the city. Certificates and sold photos lined the wall, signs of competence and speed. Mr. Davis, you mentioned needing to sell quickly. What's driving the timeline? She asked. Family circumstances, I replied. Personal reasons that require immediate action. The property evaluation took 40 minutes of methodical analysis. Based on current market conditions, Sarah said, I'd recommend listing at what 850 wise. Perfect, I said. That price aligned exactly with my escape fund. I leaned forward. I'm prepared to offer you a significant bonus if the sale closes within 7 days. Her eyes brightened. How significant? 5,000. Above your standard commission if we have a signed contract by next Tuesday. Mr. Davis, you have my complete attention and commitment, she said. Let's visit the property this afternoon. Walking through the house with Sarah was difficult. Every room held memories of Troy's childhood. The updated kitchen, the refinished floors. She photographed everything. The maintenance level is exceptional, she noted. This property will show beautifully. I told her cost wasn't an issue for staging. Her prediction was firm. Properties in this condition don't stay on the market long. I'm confident we can have multiple offers by the weekend. Multiple offers meant a higher final price. Troy's incarceration was providing an unexpected advantage. Back in her office, we signed the paperwork. Professional photographs tomorrow morning, she organized. Listing goes live Thursday, open house Saturday and Sunday. Absolute priority. The signed contracts felt like freedom. 7 days remained until Troy's release. Sarah paused before I left. Are you planning to relocate? This seems like more than just downsizing. Complete life change, I confirmed. Sometimes circumstances require dramatic decisions. One more thing. 1. I need to coordinate timing very precisely. Can you keep me updated on any interested buyers immediately? Absolutely, she promised. You'll have real-time updates. This is going to move fast. I drove away with the satisfaction of turning years of planning into concrete action. Now, I needed the final hard deadline. The drive to the county detention center took 30 minutes. I went through security. The institutional system's cold efficiency impressed me. I need information about an inmate, I told the corrections officer. Sergeant Stone reviewed my ID. Name of the inmate: Troy Davis, serving 2 weeks for criminal trespassing. His fingers worked the keyboard. Troy was reduced to a number and a schedule. Troy Davis, booked May 15th, he read. Your son will be released May 29th at 9 a.m. Perfect timing. The release time was the final crucial detail. Is there anything else I should know about the release process? Standard release procedures. Return personal effects, transportation voucher if requested. He looked up. Would you like to visit with him while you're here? It was the final test. No, that won't be necessary. The 4 words severed the last thread of parental obligation. I appreciate the information, but I have everything I need. Walking out, I felt the May 29th, 9 a.m. deadline burning in my mind. Troy would walk out expecting his old life. He would find his father had finally taken his advice about disappearing. My phone rang as I reached the front door of the house. Sarah Wilson's name lit up the screen. This was fast. Robert Davis, you called. Wonderful news, her cheerful voice said. The Silva family has accepted our asking price. Full cash offer, no contingencies. Closing tomorrow morning at 9:30. Tomorrow. May 29th, 9:30 a.m. Troy's release was 9 a.m. 30 minutes travel time before he discovered that his home now belonged to strangers. Excellent work, Sarah. That bonus is well earned. The next 24 hours were a blur of coordinated action. Movers came and went. Documents were signed. The clock was ticking down to the final perfect moment of consequence. The Silva family arrived, Carlos, Maria, and their 2 children. They brought a hopeful energy that reminded me of my own start 30 years ago. Mr. Davis, thank you so much for accepting our offer quickly, Maria said. Life circumstances change rapidly sometimes, I replied. I handed Carlos the house keys, the metal cold in my palm. I do have one small favor to ask, I said. My son is traveling and may stop by tomorrow, not knowing about the sale. Could you give him this note? I handed Maria a sealed envelope with Troy's name. She accepted it with polite courtesy. The note's contents were the culmination of 2 weeks of planning. 40 words. That summarized 28 years. After the Silvas moved in, I walked next door to George Collins's house. George had been my neighbor for 15 years. "Can I stay with you for a couple of days, George? I'm between living situations." "Of course, old friend." "What happened with the house?" he asked. "I sold it. Time for major changes in my life." He looked concerned. "What about Troy? Where will he stay when he gets back?" "Troy is an adult," I said. "He'll figure out his own arrangements." George's guest room had a perfect view of my former home's front entrance. That evening, I sat by the window, watching the Silva family unpack. Tomorrow, Troy would walk up that driveway expecting his free ride. Instead, he would meet strangers. George brought fresh towels around 10 p.m. "Everything perfect, Arthur." "Everything's perfect, George. Thank you for the accommodation." He promised support. I watched Maria Garcia close the curtains in what had been Troy's bedroom. The finality was absolute. The next morning, May 29th, at 9:30 a.m., I was at George's window. I watched the street. Then I saw him. Troy rounded the corner, walking with the casual swagger of someone returning to a guaranteed meal and a free bed. He looked thinner, wearing the same clothes from the night of the party. He approached the front walkway without hesitation, pulling out his old keys. The gesture was the perfect symbol, reaching confidently for a door that no longer belonged to him. The Silva children were playing in the yard. The sound of unfamiliar voices speaking Spanish made Troy stop. Confusion washed over his face. "Excuse me," he demanded, his voice carrying the entitled edge of a man who expects to be obeyed. "Who are you people, and what are you doing in my house?" Carlos straightened from a moving box. "Sorry, friend, but this is our house now. We bought it last week." "That's impossible." Troy's voice spiked with indignation. "I live here. This is my family's home." Maria appeared in the doorway. "Are you Troy Davis?" she asked politely. "Yes, finally, someone with sense. Now, please explain why strangers are in my house with all their belongings." Maria disappeared briefly, then returned with the sealed envelope. Troy took the envelope. His fingers trembled slightly. He tore open the seal, and I leaned forward against the cold glass of George's window. I watched his face as he read the note. The progression was clear: confusion, disbelief, growing comprehension, and then a devastating, raw realization. "Troy, you said you wanted me to disappear from your life forever. I've decided to grant your wish. The house has been sold. I am traveling extensively and will be unreachable indefinitely. You now have the independence you've always demanded. Robert." "This can't be real," he whispered, the entitlement gone. Panic replaced it. "He can't just sell our house and disappear. That's not how families work." "Sir, I'm sorry for your situation," Carlos said with genuine sympathy. "But we have all the legal paperwork. The sale was completed yesterday morning." Troy's legs gave out slightly, forcing him to lean against the mailbox. The small plastic bag from the jail fell, spilling his few possessions onto the sidewalk. "Where am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to eat?" His questions were whispers of fear, not demands. I felt the sharp, clean satisfaction of perfect justice. He had asked for freedom. He had received abandonment. He stood there, rereading the note. The house behind him buzzed with the activity of a family who appreciated having a place to call home. He folded the note carefully and walked away without another word. The handcuffs of his new independence were closing. I spent the next hour at George's kitchen table, the coffee cold and untouched. The sight of Troy's complete emotional collapse, the genuine heartbreak I witnessed, stirred a complex mixture of satisfaction and an unexpected sympathy. The sound of my phone ringing pulled me back. It was Sarah Wilson, the real estate agent. "Mr. Davis, everything went through smoothly. The sale is officially closed," she confirmed. "I've already sent the net funds to your designated account." The buyer, Maria Silva, called. "She said your son returned a little while ago. He was quite distressed. Is he going to cause any trouble for them?" "No," I said firmly. "Troy received all the information he needed. He understands the situation. You shouldn't hear from him again." I had to secure the next step in my new life. I booked a short, non-refundable stay at a budget motel 50 miles north. I needed to finish the work before leaving the region entirely. 2 hours later, a new phone call came through. The caller ID was restricted. Then I saw the text message. "Where are you, Dad? Call me, now." It was Troy. He was escalating. I silenced the phone. I would not let him manipulate me with his panic. The phone buzzed a second time. I clicked listen. To the voicemail. Troy's voice was ragged, stripped bare. "Dad, I don't know what you think you're doing. This is not funny. That old watch, Grandpa's watch, it's still here. I haven't even opened it. Please, I need to know where you put my stuff and where I can stay. Don't do this, please." The mention of the vintage watch was a deliberate, agonizing lure. I went downstairs. I needed to know his next move. "George, do you mind a quick look?" I asked. "I just need to see if my old security app is offline." George handed me his tablet. I opened the live feed from the driveway. Troy was back. He stood on the Silva's porch, facing Maria, who had opened the door just a crack. He wasn't yelling. He was pleading. "I just need one box," I heard Troy say through the tiny external mic. "I left my laptop, the one I used for gaming. I need it for work applications." Maria Silva was polite but firm. "The contract clearly states that the house was sold with all contents, except for the items removed by the previous owner." Maria closed the door gently. Troy stood there alone. He pulled out the crumpled note. He reread the 40 words, and then he crumpled it into a tight ball, his jaw locking. He turned toward the street, a new resolve hardening his posture. He was mobilizing. He was going to try and find me. I closed the app. My son was now an active adversary, and I had only hours left to make myself utterly untraceable. I drove to my bank branch, Riverbank, the same institution where Troy had been denied a loan. I sat across the desk from a young clerk. "I need to close this account immediately," I instructed. "Mr. Davis, with a large balance," he stammered. "No matter. I need everything transferred to a new, non-local account. I'm moving overseas permanently. I need the separation complete." The transfer fee was a small, visible cost for absolute clean separation. The account closed. My access to the local funds vanished instantly. As I was leaving, the manager stopped me. "Mr. Davis, I heard about the sale, but I have a note here about your son Troy. He was seeking a large loan a few months ago, using the house as collateral. He claimed he handled all the property's financial obligations." Troy hadn't just been seeking free rent. He had been planning to use my asset. The contempt was total. I offered a tight, professional smile. "He handles some of the local bills, yes, but I handled the sale. Everything is settled now." I walked out. Back at the motel, the phone was buzzing again, a new short text. "I spoke to Victor. He said you were talking about selling 2 weeks ago. You planned this while I was in jail." Troy's investigation was faster than I expected. He was exploiting his own humiliation. I leveraged my background to solve this final personal problem. I created a hidden folder on a cloud service. Inside, I loaded every canceled check, every utility bill, every property tax record dating back 28 years. Then, I wrote a single final email. I addressed it to Troy's only known email address and scheduled it to send on June 1st, 3 days after my final departure. The subject line was simple: "Your inheritance." The body contained only 2 things. Hoster 1. A clinical accounting of his $50,000 annually cost of living. 2. A single secret link to the folder of financial proof. I signed it simply, Arthur. This was a gift of brutal truth, proof that I had spent nearly a $1.4 million TY supporting his refusal to become an adult. The truth, delivered remotely, would strip away his last defense. The final piece of leverage, the documented proof, was locked and scheduled. I would be gone before the final confrontation even began. The next morning, I drove back to the familiar neighborhood one last time. I parked blocks away and walked. I needed to ensure Troy wasn't waiting for me to show up and retrieve the watch he'd used as a lure. I saw him first. Troy was standing across the street from the Silva's house, talking intensely with his mother's cousin, Brenda. She was a distant relative known for having strong and very public opinions. This was the public escalation I had dreaded. I watched from the shadow of an oak tree as Troy pointed dramatically toward the Silva's front door. He was playing the victim perfectly. Troy's voice carried clearly across the quiet street. "He won't even tell me where he moved my things, Brenda. He left me the trash from the jail in a 40-word note." "I can't even get Grandpa's watch back." Brenda put her arm around him. "It's unforgivable, Troy. To do this to your own flesh and blood, it's vindictive. I'm going to call him." I saw my second chance. I pulled out my phone. I dialed Troy's number. Troy answered instantly, his voice snapping from victimized whisper to aggressive demand. "Dad, where are you? Brenda is here. You need to talk to her." "Listen, Troy," I cut in, keeping my voice low and firm. "I know what you're doing. You wanted independence, and I gave it to you. That $850,000 house is now closed. You have zero legal claim." "But the watch! You can't keep Grandpa's watch!" he shouted. He was near enough that I could hear a secondary echo of his voice from the phone itself. I stepped out from the shadow of the oak tree. Troy turned, startled, phone still pressed to his ear. Brenda gasped. "You're not getting the watch back, Troy," I said, looking him straight in the eye while talking into the phone. "Because you never respected the man who gave it to me, and you certainly didn't respect me." Troy lowered his phone. "What are you doing here? You left." "I'm ensuring I won't be harassed," I stated. "You spoke of disappearing from your life. That meant I took everything that was mine, everything that subsidized your contempt." Brenda stepped forward. "Arthur, this is cruel. He's your son. You can't just make him homeless." I looked at her, paying the full social price. "Brenda, I paid $50,000 annually to fund his unemployment and disrespect. He planned to use my assets for a loan without my knowledge. He asked me to disappear. I chose to save my last $150,000. Instead of continuing to fund his life." Troy's face flushed deep crimson. He knew I was exposing his plan to a family witness. He was losing control of the narrative. "The contents of that house were sold with it, Troy," I continued. "But I made one exception." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small sealed legal envelope. Inside this envelope is a cashier's check for $15,000. The exact amount I paid for the used Honda we got you last year. It's your last financial subsidy. I want the car keys, Troy. I held out my hand. This was the final price of independence. "You can't take the car. I need it for the job search," he protested. "You sabotaged 3 job interviews last November," I reminded him. "Now you own nothing but the cash in this envelope. Hand over the keys." Brenda remained silent. Troy's jaw locked. He looked at the keys in his hand, then the envelope. He threw the keys at me. They clattered onto the pavement. I watched him storm off, the cashier's check still clutched tightly in his hand. I picked up the keys. I was utterly free. I put the buy one $15,000 check back into the safe pocket of my jacket. I drove the used Honda to the nearest post office. The key felt heavy in my hand, a relic of a life I had finally jettisoned. I mailed the check to Troy's last verifiable P.O. Box address. I wrote only the words, "Final restitution. You are on your own." I stood on the curb, watching the old Honda being towed away by the junk dealer I had called minutes before. The man had given me USD 800Ds in cash, a transaction that required no ID, no paper trail, and no connection to my old life. I returned to George's house. "I'm leaving this morning, George," I told him. "Where are you headed, Arthur?" he asked. "To the ocean," I replied. "Time to start completely fresh." George nodded. "You've got my number if you need anything." I drove west toward the Pacific. The highway stretched out, carrying me away from everything I had known. $850 was in my new anonymous bank account. No family obligations. Troy had gotten exactly what he claimed to want, a father who disappeared from his life forever. The justice was simple and elegant. Yet, the image of his tears remained. The tears had changed my understanding of him. He was still my son, despite everything. That recognition didn't change my decision to leave, but it added a layer of complexity to what had started as simple justice and evolved into something approaching wisdom. I pulled over at a scenic overlook, the coastal highway appearing ahead. I had spent 28 years enabling someone who wished I would disappear. Now I was granting that wish while creating the life I should have built for myself decades ago. The engine hummed softly. I drove toward whatever came next, carrying nothing but the clothes in my suitcase and the hard-earned knowledge that respect, once lost, can only be reclaimed through decisive action. Ahead, the ocean waited with horizons I'd never explored. It was time to find out who I was when no one needed anything from me. The score was settled. The father was finally free. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.